Hello and welcome to this week's edition of We Follow the Town. An exciting week really, because takeover rumours have been circling on the internet and we won a game, which is very, very rare, especially if you're Ipswich Town. And joining me here today is Aaron Tester to talk you through the rumours and the game from this weekday. First of all, Aaron, how are you and what did you make of the win against Hull?
Yeah, I'm all good, thank you. Yeah, all fine. Well, I've blown away really, and I don't think we spoke since Oxford either. Last week we predicted we'd get spanked by Oxford because they were above us, and I thought exactly the same about Hull. But there we go, decent draw. When you look at it, clean sheet. They're the team in form, Oxford, and then to keep Hull to a clean sheet, who are one of the top scorers in the league, was a big win for us.
And James Norwood got the goal. Many people have criticised him in the past, so in my opinion, he's probably our most natural finisher. What did you make of Norwood's performance? And going forward, could he be our main man up front?
Well, I think he is our main man. I think he always has been our main man since he's been at the club. I think he's excellent. Well, he plays like a lower league player, if you know what I mean. He sort of runs about, he barges about, he gives away silly fouls. But he's a presence up front and he does score goals when he's had the chance, when he's not been sort of hampered by injury. I thought he's been brilliant, to be honest. Like, especially on Tuesday, excellent. Absolutely harassed everything. Same with Troy Parrott, was brilliant as well. So they're constantly very good.
So another stand-up performer was Miles Kenlock. He probably had the best game of his career at Ipswich. What did he make of Kenlock? Because in my opinion, Kenlock has been in fantastic form lately.
Yeah, he's always it's a strange one with Miles because he's always been sort of an understudy. So when I'm not sure how much he saw of Creswell, I doubt he saw much of him. But under Tyrone Mings, he's understudy. Then they brought in Knudsen, understudy to Knudsen. You know, it's always been an understudy. When Garbutt come in, didn't play, and it's been strange. And it's unbelievable. He's played 80 odd games. He started 80 games for Ipswich, which is mad. And he's always sort of been one of those people. I've always thought, if he can play if you get Miles to play sort of 5 or 6 games in a row, he could stop looking so awkward, you know, because he doesn't look like a footballer. He doesn't run like a footballer. But as we've seen in the last couple of weeks, he's probably been a standout performer. And absolutely brilliant he was.
Is it about who Kenlock is at the back with? Because, you know, like usually he's been inconsistently put into the side, and at the moment he's actually been given a consistent run at the back, although he's played under 2 different partnerships so far, NCR and Wilson, and he's also played alongside Chambers and McGuinness. Do you reckon it's consistency that's actually going to benefit him in the long term?
I think it benefits the team, not just him. I think when you've got partnerships all over the pitch, when you've got a decent partnership at centre half where they're clean sheets and they know how to play with each other, that suits well all over the pitch. The more partnerships, the good partnerships you can have in a side, the better your performances will be. And I think we saw that on Tuesday, and even say Saturday, when you've got a sturdy back four, say with Nciala and Wilson, that gives a base for everyone else to play. Then you've got Parrott and Norwood playing up top. They seem very good Tuesday. It's another good partnership to have, and then you can sort of fit players around that. I think Miles Kenlock has been doing really well, as proven, and that does help when you've got sturdy players all over the pitch, a sturdy back four.
So many people think that James Wilson is probably our best centre half. I'd agree with them. Do you reckon that James Wilson and Nciala at the back are probably our best partnership?
I've always liked Wilson. I know he went through a bit of a strange period where he doesn't play very often. I'm not sure because that was of injury or anything like that, or Lambert wanted players that could play, if you know what I mean. But I think with Wilson, he keeps everything nice and simple, like the classic "if in doubt, get it out," which everybody's like, everybody in the crowd when he heads it out for a throw-in, we're all like, slumped shoulders. But I don't mind it. If you can't do anything positive with it, make sure you're safe with it. And I think he always does that. And he doesn't make many mistakes. And Nciala is a strange one as well, because as we've seen in the last 2 games, he can do it. He can play well. He can be excellent at the back. He's a real force. But we all know as well, he's that close all the time to doing something rash. He's that close to giving away a penalty. He's that close to a red card at all time. And that's the thing we worry about. But if he can keep that out of his game and concentrate through the whole 90 minutes every game, it'll be brilliant for us.
So a question from glass of cow. Is Kenlock good enough, or is he the best looking out of a bunch of ugly dogs?
I think Kenlock's probably not the best looking out of the ugly dogs, but he's well, I reckon he is probably good enough. Well, he's good enough for now anyway, Miles Kenlock. I'm not sure he's the thing going forward, but that's the thing we've always said about him. We've said that for the last 4 years with Miles Kenlock. He's not the thing we're gonna use going forward. But he always seems to have a few games where I think, oh, actually, Miles Kenlock, decent player. But I think that is a spot in the team that we have to look for a new left back. But that's what we've always said. Maybe it's time to give Miles a try. I don't know.
I mean, maybe. I mean, we're going to talk about the new ownership later and potentially the new manager as well. But should we get a new manager? Is it up to Kenlock to prove his worth for the team? Could he maybe prove to the manager wrong and keep his spot in the team, long term?
Well, you'd hope so, because it seems like every manager that's had Kenlock has always had him as an understudy, always not quite fancied him. Like McCarthy didn't fancy him, Hurst didn't fancy him, and now Lambert doesn't really fancy him either. It's taken him to the second half of the season to actually get a sniff of first team football. So it's obviously taking managers a long time to sort of warm to Miles, but I'm all for it. If he can really show in these next few weeks, maybe to the end of the season or maybe till the takeover, that he can do it, then maybe finally get his solid start in the team.
And he's 24 as well, so he's no longer a youngster really. He's a senior player, so fingers crossed he can prove himself at the club. Now to get on to the main news and the main talking point in the world of Ipswich Town, a group of American investors led by Los Angeles-based businessman Brett Johnson is on the verge of buying Ipswich Town for $17.5 million. Before you get into more details, are you excited about the prospects of a new owner?
I think what I'd call myself right now is sort of cautiously optimistic, because it's the same with Ipswich actually on the pitch. We see one glimmer of hope and we all get excited. You see Twitter this week, it's been unbelievable. It's the change that a week can make from all doom and gloom to, is this going to be the start of a playoff run? Is this going to be the start of something? 1 week it took us to do that. And I just hope that it stays positive, and I hope that this new takeover can be a good thing for Ipswich, because we've all been begging for Marcus out, for so long, and hopefully it can be a real positive step.
So apparently Marcus Evans will still have a stake in the club. He'll have a 25% stake, according to some sources. Does that maybe change your opinion a bit, or would you still be happy with a new owner?
I think it's probably Marcus trying to be clever. He's trying to see if they bring in a new owner and a new investor, and a new sort of coach, he wants to be in there if we do anything good. So if we magically manage to get to the Premier League, Marcus is going to want a stake in it. So he's going to, and then that's the time for him to sell up. So if we progress as a club, he'll want that little stake in the club so he can sell it. For me, so that's why he's probably keeping it.
So Evans has been at the club since December 2007, and the 57-year-old has reportedly been in talks with various parties for the last 6 months. Evans has gotten rid of £100 million worth of debt. Is that a good thing? Surely he's helping the club in the long run by doing that.
Yeah, you'd think so. I don't think we know the full story yet. I don't think we know the full details. But if he's going to take all the debt with him, or clear all the debt, then that can only be a good thing for us. Well, you'd imagine anyway. I'm not a businessman, but I imagine clearing £100 million of debt is a good thing for the club.
So elsewhere, a new manager is also rumoured to come in. Should we get a new owner, Paul Lambert is going to get a sack, and Paul Cook, 2 Pauls, will be the new manager. What do you think of Paul Cook? Because I've heard some mixed feelings about him. Some fans reckon he'll be the right manager going forward, and other fans reckon he's very similar to Paul Lambert, and he'll, put us in a very similar position, if that makes sense. What are your thoughts on Paul Cook potentially coming in?
I think me and Jamie touched on it last week on the podcast. We both said, as soon as you said if you wanted a new manager, who would it be? One of the first names on the tongue was Paul Cook. That's because we like him. He's always on Sky. He's always making sense when he's on Sky, and he's very clearly passionate about football and wants to be a coach. And I think everywhere he's been, I don't exactly know at the start of his career, but I think everywhere he's been, he's looked positive and he's looked like a good coach. So obviously it'd be worth a try. And if new owners coming in and new investors and new people coming into the club fancy him already and he's the name linked, there's got to be something about him that can only be positive. And I think we should look positively upon that.
And he's also got League One experience. He, of course, got Wigan promoted from League One to the Championship. And, he ultimately left due to their financial difficulties. He's also managed at Accrington Stanley, huge club, and a few other clubs in the Football League. Also, in the rumour mill, Mark Ashton, who is the Bristol City chief executive, is rumoured to be on his way to Ipswich. Should we get a new owner, of course, he'll take over the day-to-day running of the club and he'll also be director of football. Mark Ashton, however, is not particularly that popular with Bristol City fans. Do you reckon he'll be a good acquisition? Should we get him?
I really don't know with that one. Obviously, Bristol City are a good club and they always look to be positive, but a city the size of Bristol and a club the size of Bristol City, you'd hope that they'd be doing more, if anything. So I'm not sure whether that's on his shoulders or whether that's something else. So I couldn't say anything about him yet because obviously it's sort of early days and you don't really know with him. But if anything is to go by the Bristol City fans, then I don't know. It's one of those where you sort of got to sort of wait and see, I think.
Is it all about getting a football man in, though? Because Lee O'Neill, let's be honest, he's not a football man. He doesn't know much about football, we'd assume. So Mark Ashton, even if he isn't highly rated by Bristol, it's good that we're getting somebody who knows football and he's actually been in the game for a while.
Yeah, 100%. Having as many people that know the game and know the game at a high level is a good thing. I don't even know what Lee O'Neill does at the club, to be honest. He seems to have a free role, if you know what I mean. He seems to be the number 10 of the club, just does what he wants. But it's a strange seeing him in the club. I know he means well. I think I've heard a couple of interviews with him. He seems like a real good guy. But having a guy with that sort of experience, that nous of being one of the top cheeses, if you know what I mean, of a football club, can only be a good thing.
So, also in the news lately, there's been quite a few problems lately in the youth system. Apparently, a few youth players have spoken out about Ipswich, especially the fact that there isn't a goalkeeper at youth level, apparently a goalkeeping coach, and the fact that they've been treated poorly. Should a new owner come in, should that be the first thing that he should look at? Like changing our youth setup, making sure that there are coaches in every department, and making sure that they're also happy.
I definitely think it should be one of the things on his list. I reckon probably the first thing on the list is the first team. I imagine because that's the main issue. If the first team are doing well, and we're sort of, getting promoted and all those sort of things, then you sort of forget about the issues down below. But say in this situation now where Mark's been saying you've got to believe in the youth, you've got to believe in the youth, trust in the youth. Those are the guys that are coming through. Then we've really got to focus on the youth. The coaching's got to be right. The system's got to be right in the youth level. And as I think saw a statement on Twitter, the other day from a young player that's been released from the club. And obviously what you've just said there, obviously it isn't right at the moment and it does need to be looked at. But I'm not sure it'll be the first thing on his list.
So it's important to invest in youth. Needs to be sorted. Ask Ben Morris. In your opinion, should we make more of an effort to keep hold of our youth players? Because, of course, players in the past, such as Tyrone Mings, I know we bought him, but he was a young player. We ultimately let him go. Jack Clark, a player who left for Derby. I've probably forgotten it. Well, I have forgotten who he is.
So apologies for that. Was it Matthew Clark or something like that? Did he go to Portsmouth?
Not Jack Clark. I think Clark's the Leeds one.
Maybe.
Jack Marriott. I'll edit that out when I put it on iTunes. But players such as Jack Marriott, Adam Webster as well. These are players who are young and we let go of. So should we make more of an investment into our youth? And should we maybe make more of an effort to keep hold of them?
I think with the thing with Webster was we let him go too soon. I think he was always going to go. But as you saw, we let him go for sort of £3.5 million. Which I imagine Mark sort of snatched at as soon as he saw any sort of millions of pounds. He snatched at it But he then spent one season at Bristol City, and then Derby signed him for like £20 million. One season was that much money. If we could hold on to a player and make them look that good, that jump in money is huge. And I think that's one of the things that Marcus was probably looking at and thinking, oh, I've probably made a big mistake there. With Marriott, I don't think I saw a lot of Marriott at the club, so I can't really say whether it's a good idea to let him go or not. I think McCarthy at the time probably thought he's probably not for me. He's not there yet. He's not ready. At the time, they had Murphy, McGoldrick scoring goals. Probably didn't think like he needed him.
And his attitude as well, sorry to interrupt, his attitude as well was also apparently an issue at the club. And Mick McCarthy and Jack Marriott didn't get along very well at all.
Yeah, I think that's a thing that a lot of youth players are going to go through. Everybody has that sort of moment in their head where they think, actually, I really have to knuckle down here. And I think that's probably a massive moment for Jack Marriott when he got let go from Ipswich Town. He probably thought, right, it's really now time for me to knuckle down. And that's turned him into the player that he is. But that wouldn't have happened without us letting him go. If that's something for our coaches to look at, or just to motivate the player, get him under control, I don't know. But it's definitely something that we need to look at with the youth players. But at the moment, you look at our first team and people out on loan. Our first team, Miles Kenlock plays. He was a youth player. In centre midfield, we have Bishop and Dazelle playing on Tuesday. Both youth players. Lancaster was in the 23s. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of youth players in that team still.
So anyway, a statement was released from Ipswich Town. This is about the potential new owner, by the way, and the fact that it was leaked by the Athletic. Asked for their response, a club spokesman told the EADT and Ipswich Star, Marcus Evans reiterates that he is not actively looking to sell the club and remains fully focused on taking Ipswich Town back to the Championship. However, as he has also said in the past, he would speak to interested parties if they could prove themselves to be credible buyers that would provide long-term sustainability. What do you make of the statement? Is it just Ipswich Town kind of trying to play it cool?
I think they're just batting down the statements, to be honest. I think they're just trying to buy themselves time and give themselves a bit of space from it, because at the end of the day, it is all rumours at the moment. I know things might be going on behind the background, but we do make a lot of these things and the papers jump all over it. So I think that's just them trying to just stick behind the manager for the moment. But I think they're just trying to stay out of the way of it, to be honest, for now, because at the moment they can't say anything until it actually happens. We know that. But yeah.
But if you're Paul Lambert, are you a bit worried? Because, you won last time out. Maybe that could, kickstart a bit of a run. With the club being so coy about the new owner and the fact that Paul Lambert is, well, detested by fans, do you think that he's worried? Or would you be worried if you are him?
I think I would be. If there was a lot of rumours about a new owner coming in, me losing my job, I'd be panicking. I'd be looking elsewhere. I'd be thinking about my next job as well. But that's just me. I don't know what his situation is. I don't know what he's up to. I imagine he's in the same position. Nobody likes rumours about their job. So if you were doing a university degree and then there was a bit in the paper about somebody coming in and kicking you out of your spot and somebody else taking it, you wouldn't be best pleased. So I imagine that's the same. I think we saw that in his interview on Tuesday, because I think them rumours were coming out just before then about the new owner and about the thing. And he come out and he was very sort of downplaying the result and downplaying the performance. Whereas in the past, when we've been watching the games and it's been clearly very, very disappointing, he's been bigging up the players absolutely to the hilt. He'd be saying, "Oh yeah, we're excellent. We were brilliant. We're that close." As soon as we pull out that performance that was excellent all over the pitch, he downplays it. So that might be due to the rumours, might be due to the rumours of him losing his job. You don't know.
And apparently after the game, Paul Lambert and Marcus Evans had a very stern conversation about his future. I don't know whether we could read anything into that, or whether, it's just something that happens. He was at the game, Marcus Evans, he was at the whole game. So what do you make of that? The fact that the two of them had a stern conversation afterwards.
Well, to be fair, Paul Lambert did absolutely, dig out Marcus Evans in the press maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago, saying the club was absolutely broken, the structure was all over the place. So it probably has something a little bit to do with that. But if it's Marcus, I don't think they can have anything to say. If Marcus is selling up, Lambert's got nothing he can say. Yeah.
And you just mentioned the fact that he dug out Paul Lambert in the press conference. Do you reckon that it's not actually the manager's fault? A lot of fans are going to hate me for saying that. Oh, it's not the manager's fault. But ultimately, this has been a bit of a pattern where managers have come in, they haven't been given a lot to spend, and ultimately, yeah, as we all know, it's all gone downhill. So do you reckon that Paul Lambert could at least get a bit of leeway because of how poor the ownership has been?
Well, it depends. I think if I was the owner and your manager's digging you out to the press, I wouldn't be happy about it. But at the end of the day, does it matter? Does it matter that he's dug it to the press? Is Evans ever going to change? Probably not. And you can say that the club is all over the place, but nothing changes. Nothing's ever changed at Ipswich Town. McCarthy didn't like the structure. Hurst kicked up about the structure, and now Lambert's kicking up about the structure, and still nothing happens.
So a burning question in the comments. Apologies for this, but what beer are you drinking?
I'm drinking a Corona at the moment.
A Corona.
So thank you. I think it's glass of cow, isn't it? They're asking that
glass
question.
of cow.
I've heard through the grapevine that they are an excellent seven-a-side team on a Monday night. Their captain is probably the best player at the club.
HMS Piss the League, as they like to be called.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Apparently, I'm literally just making it up. So,
all right, okay.
So yeah. Anyway, so elsewhere in Ipswich Town, town striker James Norwood is set to miss the Blues' trip to Fleetwood on Tuesday, the 16th of March, after Ipswich Magistrates Court refused a request to adjourn his trial. We need to be careful when talking about this because, of course, the court thing is still going on. What do you make of that? James Norwood, he hasn't been that well behaved at the club. He's gotten into trouble in the past. We spoke about his social media behaviour last week. So what do you make of that? The fact that he's going to miss a game because he'll be on trial, sorry.
Well, it's not particularly pleased about it. I don't think anybody should be was it drink driving? Or
drink driving.
Yeah. He got done for. Like, that's just, you can't do that. You can't do that nowadays. You got to accept your punishment. If you miss a game of football for it, then fair play. But we're going to miss him, that's for sure, because we look a complete different team without him, and that's obviously going to sadden fans. He's brilliant for us. Well, as he showed Tuesday, but you've got to pay for your mistakes.
And as you said, he's probably our most natural finisher. So yeah, it would be a real shame to miss him. Kayden Jackson looks as if he'll be on his way out in the summer. God knows whether he'll be brought back in. Drinan, as we all know, isn't a very good player. Controversial opinion, though I don't think many will disagree with me. But anyway, on Saturday, we are playing Doncaster Rovers. Doncaster haven't won in 5. They haven't been playing very well at all under Darren Moore. First of all, do you reckon that we'll make it 2-2 and beat Doncaster, who, as I just said, are in a very bad run of form?
Yeah, well, I hope so. I really do hope so, because we've had we had Oxford game was relatively positive because they were in a great run of form. And obviously Hull's a big result for us. Now it's time for us to really see if we can kick on and get that another statement win, because I think they're still 5th or 6th, Doncaster at the moment. Yeah, so they're still above us. They're still a good side. And as we saw last time, well, when we went to their place, they absolutely spanked us, didn't they, 4-1?
So again, could a win maybe save Paul Lambert? I know we briefly mentioned this earlier on, but like 2-2, especially with a new owner coming in, that would actually look quite good, wouldn't it?
It would look good, but I think the new owner will probably have his mind made about Paul Lambert. Paul Lambert's been at the club a long time now, and you've seen a lot of Paul Lambert, and you'd hear a lot of things, especially as a new owner coming in from other clubs, from other people around the game, saying if he's done well or done badly. So I don't think there's going to be a lot that's going to save him, especially when it's just 2 games. So the whole game, great win. If you can get another win on Saturday, great. But if we still finish 9th or 10th in the league at the end of the season, or whenever the new owner comes in, nothing could save him from that. I think a change is probably necessary, and I think they think so as well.
So it's also worth noting, we should have maybe have mentioned this at the beginning of the show, but Tristan Nydam is back. Of course, he won't be on the bench as he's only just returned to training. But what do you think about Tristan Nydam being back? Is that a boost to the squad?
Well, it's certainly a boost to the squad, yeah, because he's one of those. We don't have many players that can play a few positions. So we've seen Tristan play central midfield for us, and we've seen him play left back. I think I saw him play in a pre-season game at left back, and it might have been also at Crystal Palace away in the Cup. I think I watched him play left back, and he was excellent that day as well. So I've seen him play two positions and look decent. Because you've got to remember, at one stage, Tristan Nydam was getting in ahead of Flynn Downs every week. So he's obviously got some talent, and obviously some managers think some good things about him. So if he can get back up to speed and get sort of in and around the first team, get playing games, I think that'll be a massive boost for us.
So would you maybe be looking at maybe forcing him back into the first team, rushing him back like we did with KVY, purely for the fact that we haven't really got a decent left back?
Probably not. He's been out for sort of like 580 odd days, I think I saw.
Almost 2 years.
Yeah, I see him a lot in Turtle Bay as well. So he's on a few beers, I think. So I wouldn't rush him in straight away. But I think give him some time, give him a load of 23s games, and then after a while, get him back in.
And of course, Thomas Holy is also targeting a personal record on Saturday. Townkeeper Thomas Holy is chasing a new personal best after keeping a clean sheet in his last 3 games. The goalless draw at home to Northampton and Oxford, plus Tuesday's excellent 1-0 win at Hull, is a run that he believes has boosted team morale. Now, first of all, do you reckon that our recent run has boosted our squad's morale? And do you also reckon, that Thomas Holy is the keeper going forward?
Yeah, I think Thomas Holy is the keeper going forward. I know he's got his limitations, Thomas Holy, but he seems genuinely a good keeper. I'm not sure about Cornell. I've not seen a lot of him, but if he's not getting ahead of Holy every week, he can't be as great as everybody said when he came in, because Holy's a decent keeper, but he's not great. He's not what Bartos was. For a big lump, he's not demanding in his box. He flaps at a lot of things, Thomas Holy, but 3 clean sheets on the bounce is going to be a massive boost for him, and a massive boost for the defence as well. So it can only be a good thing that he's keeping clean sheets, of course. But once again, if we did come out of this division and went up to the Championship, I do think an upgrade would seriously be needed, a goalkeeper.
So you spoke about us potentially going up to the Championship. Should everything go well, hopefully under Paul Cook, fingers crossed, who do you think we should get rid of? Do you reckon that the squad that we have right now would be good enough to at least stay in the Championship? We're not talking mid-table, we're literally talking about survival here. Or do you reckon we'll need to make a lot of investment?
I think a lot of investment would need to happen if we went up to the Championship. I think goalkeeper would need improving. If KVY could come back fit and healthy and you can grind out sort of 30 odd games a season, maybe 40 games a season out of him, then great. You don't need, very optimistic, but then that solves your right back issue, because we're not going to get any more out of Chambers, I don't think, after this year. Nshiala Wilson, I'd like to upgrade that, but you'd hope that under a new coach, that Wolfenden can become that player that we thought he could be. Last season, he was excellent for us, and big clubs were having a little look at him in the summer, I think, weren't they? So if he can really push on to be that player that we wanted at centre half, then that would be excellent for us. But I think a big experienced head in there would be a good thing in the Championship. Left back, I know we've been talking about Miles being excellent the last few weeks, but a real good, solid left back would be great, I think, for us in the Championship. I don't think you can expect 40 odd great games out of Miles Kenlock in a season. Midfield, I think we need upgrades all over the pitch, to be honest.
Really? Downs is a good player, isn't he?
Downs is a great player.
By QPR?
Absolutely. They're both great players, but then that's it. Teddy Bishop has spells of looking excellent, but can also have spells in a game where he completely disappears.
And he's no longer a young player. Don't forget,
They're-
he's 25 years old.
None of them are. None of them are young players. I know Lambert says we're putting out the young boys, but they're not young boys anymore. They're
No, they're
from
not.
the academy, but they're my age, older than me, most of them.
Mm.
And you've expected more from them by now. And I know they've been sort of hampered by injuries, but as I said, with Wolfenden at centre half, if we can get a good coach in it that can really drag these great performances out of them, then maybe they can be good players, can be great players, in fact.
And Wolfenden's 22 as well. You know, like in most sides, a 22-year-old isn't a young player. 22-year-old is considered a senior pro almost. So next season is actually quite important for his development, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's massive. I don't know what the contract situation is like for these young players that we've been talking about, but they must be coming up, some of them. So Teddy Bishop can't be fired away from wanting a new contract. A few of them are probably that far away from either make or break Ipswich Town.
Yeah.
You know, so we need to get as much out of them as possible.
So Ted Brown lives or lives, I don't know whether I've got that right, said, get rid of our oldies, have overseen years of poor results. What do you make of that? Should we get rid of Luke Chambers or should we maybe keep him around purely because he's an excellent captain to have at the club?
Well, I think he's an excellent captain. I know somebody, I think Jack Bedford's in the comments. Yeah, Jack Bedford thinks he's an awful captain because he's seen us drop down the levels. But I don't think like that. I think he's excellent around the place, and I think everybody really looks up to Luke Chambers.
He's a good player for the young lads, isn't he?
He is,
Because like he's kept a few of them in his annex, which sounds a bit weird, but he looks after them. He looks after them.
Certainly does. Yeah, I think I've probably Tim Brown lives. He's probably talking about Cole Skews as well, and I think it's probably time for Cole Skews, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
He's not played at all this season. I'm sure he's a great lad around the change rooms from all you hear, all you see in the interviews. I'm sure he's a great bloke, but I think it's probably time for him to definitely hang up the boots and maybe get out finally get on them coaching badges. I think he's probably doing them now. I think he'd probably be good coaches, both of them, Chambers and Skews. And I could probably see him being here again in more coaching roles, but I don't think sort of lingering around as 36-year-olds in the first team of Ipswich Town is a great look for us, really.
Yeah. Or maybe they'll do a Kieran Dyer and, manage a few, like the club at youth level, if that makes sense. Like Luke Chambers, in my opinion, he's a future Ipswich Town manager. He obviously has a good head on him. He's obviously a great tactician from what I've heard from people inside the club. Do you reckon that'll be the ideal route for the two of them?
Yeah, I think they're like best mates, aren't they, Chambers and Skews? So I think I could see them being sort of a Mick McCarthy and Terry Connor in the future. I'm not sure if it will start at Ipswich Town, but it may do, you don't know. But I think they would be a good coaching duo.
And here's an idea. Should they leave the club next year, have them working in the shop or selling programmes? Yeah, I don't think they'll be too happy about that. A bit of a demotion, don't you think?
Well...
But anyway,
don't put anything on those guys that are working in the shop. I'm sure they're great as well.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll love to have a captain working with them, managing how they sell programs, maybe. But anyway, a few of the players that are out of contract. We mentioned Cole Skews, Andre Dizelle. He will also be out of contract. He is wanted by QPR, potentially on a free transfer. And probably the biggest of them all, in my opinion, is James Wilson. And in my opinion, James Wilson would be an excellent player to keep because I reckon he could actually prove himself at championship level.
Yeah, potentially. Well, obviously, we don't know. We've only seen him in League One, but I think he's been excellent for us. So if he could take that step up into the championship, then that would be great.
And he's yet to make a mistake, is he?
Not that I can remember. I think he's always been quite solid at the back. But don't hold me to that. I think he's been quite solid. But it would be interesting to see what the contract situation with him is like because I think we got him was he a trialist at first? And we gave him a 1-0 deal?
Alongside with John Guthrie. We signed for that player, obviously.
Well, yeah, obviously. But it'll be interesting to see how it works out in the summer because there's going to be some big changes.
Of course, and we were talking about our game this weekend against Doncaster. What do you think the score will be?
It's at home, isn't it? We are playing at home. I'm going to go
Yep.
really optimistic, and I'm going to say we're going to beat them. I think they're on a bit of a poor run. I'll say we beat them 2-1.
2-1. Well, that is very, very optimistic. Thank you very much for tuning into our show. I hope you enjoyed it. And of course, thank you very much, Aaron, for being here with me. We'll be back next week on Monday and also on Friday, the usual time slots. So make sure you join us then. And again, thank you very much for joining in. Thank you. I'm always great at ending shows, aren't I?